So we've got quite an interesting one here, Shirley, that is about transformation and whether WM can transform into a more high-grade type of lymphoma and the time it takes to do that and how it might happen.
Yes, so transformation is indeed when the sort of slow disease of WM can become more accelerated in its biological behavior. And when that happens, usually you see a more rapid change in the person's well-being. So one of the commonest things is to get a swelling that changes very quickly. People can also get symptoms such as sweat, so-called B symptoms, sweats, fevers, weight loss, and it's something that needs a change in treatment because you cannot use the standard therapies for WM to treat high-grade lymphomas. You need to up the ante and use somewhat more aggressive treatment. It's something that happens in a small percentage of patients or people. And I think the important thing to realize is, although it's quite a significant development, it is something that can be treated effectively. And the speed is of the essence. To make the diagnosis usually needs a biopsy of the tissues. PET scanning is very useful in this situation where you give labeled glucose injection and see which part of the body is affected. And so it is something that happens. We've seen many cases, but we have also seen very successful treatments. So that is really a broad answer to that.
Thanks very much. So I'm going to pass over to Amsterdam, where Beth has a question for MJ.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Kat. Super. So my question here is, why do symptoms come and go?
No, that's a very good question. I wish I had the answer. Because actually, probably there still is some kind of balance between the patient as a whole and the disease. So what we see, especially in lymphomas like Waldenstrom's, but also in other follicular lymphoma, which is also a not very aggressive type of lymphoma, is that probably maybe it's the immune system or other factors that still sort of can control the WM cells. And they do it better at some times and worse at other times, which means sometimes the IgM going up is not a continuous or exponential curve. It can go up and down, and also the symptoms can go up and down. But the true answer is we don't completely know, because if we would know, we would maybe be able to use it also to actually use it or influence it to have control of the disease without giving any specific chemotherapy or other treatment. And that's a very good question.
Shall I just add to what Marie-José said just a little bit? I think one of the things we have found that can be quite a trigger for symptoms is viral infections. COVID is a particular culprit in this regard. And I think that's because WM is a very inflammatory state, so that it's sort of a red alert as far as the immune system is concerned. And so when people develop COVID, they can actually have excessive symptoms, and this can actually last quite a few weeks sometimes before things settle down again. And it can also push IgM levels up temporarily. And if, for example, you have COVID and you have to stop your treatment, that can cause a further rise in IgM, because if you stop your treatment, then that can cause certainly a bump in the IgM level. So in that circumstance, I think it's really important for everyone to hold their nerve, actually, because usually this effervescence, if you like, does settle down and calm down with time. And for the most part, things come back to a steady state.
Great, thank you. We've got time for one very quick question, which two people have actually asked, and that is thrombocytosis, which is high platelet levels, linked to WM?
Yes, it can be, probably for the same reason, which is inflammatory. One of the causes of high platelet levels is general inflammation. I wouldn't say it's extremely particularly common. Sometimes platelets can go up if you are iron deficient, because the body interprets that as sort of maybe bleeding, or and when you have chronic bleeding, quite often your platelets go up. So there may be different mechanisms for that. And if people have high platelets, I mean, there is a condition of high platelets which happens all by itself, called essential thrombocythemia. So there are some other hematological disorders. It's unusual for things to coexist, but I have seen that happen. And usually if people have persistently high platelets, there are some tests that one can do to look at the potential causes.